perhaps. But I'll never forget, way back in 1988, you may remember there was a book out, 88 Reasons Why the Lord Will Come in 1988. And everyone was calling me saying, is this going to happen? There was a man who had written a book stating that the Lord would come September the 10th through September the 13th, 1988. And I told everyone that called me, no, that is not going to happen. However, one man invited me to come to Middleton, Tennessee to do a prophecy conference over this time period, so I did. Actually, I decided to go down September the 9th and stay through the 14th so that if it did happen, I guess I was going to heaven from Tennessee. Nevertheless, on the night of the 9th, I was teaching the lesson that I'm teaching to you right now. After the meeting, we went out to a restaurant to eat. Before we went inside the restaurant, one of the young ladies of the church happened to glance at the dispenser for USA Today newspaper, and she suddenly screamed. She said, "Right there it is." And we all whirled to look. And there on the front of that day's edition of USA Today, it actually was September 9, 1988, I hold a copy of it in my hand, was a picture of Uncle Sam nose to nose with the Russian bear. Now, not only is God on the front page now of the most widely distributed news magazine in America, now he's on the front cover of the most widely distributed newspaper in America. It's like God is everywhere, waving his arm, saying, hey, you don't believe I exist? Here I am. I'm on your coffee table. I'm in your news dispenser. I'm everywhere. I'm trying to get a message through to you. I am coming soon. It's really awesome when you think about it, Eddie.
There's another beast that we want to take a look at, and this is an unusual beast. It's a leopard, but this leopard has 4 heads. What do you make of that?
Well, I was puzzled with the leopard. And I sort of got stuck there when I was attempting to understand these prophecies. This was way back when I was in my 20s, which was 10 or 12 or 15 or 20 years ago. And I'll never forget, I was praying, asking God to help me to understand. I woke up one morning, I was in Melville, Louisiana, actually, which is the metropolitan area of Melville, if any of you have ever been there. I woke up that morning, it was a Monday, and I was supposed to not be speaking that night. It was a rest day for me. But I woke up and I felt like God spoke to me and said, there's something I want to show you. Go buy a newspaper. Now, just to put your mind at ease, that has never happened to me before. It's never happened to me since. It happened to me one time. But it was so strong that I immediately got out of bed, got myself together, and I said to one of the ladies in Melville, where can I buy a newspaper? And amazingly, she said, I don't know. And I said, how long have you lived here? She said, 25 years. So she obviously didn't follow the news too closely. She said, maybe down here at the local restaurant. So I got in my automobile and went down to the restaurant, and I was so sure that God had spoken to me that I put my money in the newspaper dispenser, pulled out the newspaper, and there on the front page it said, Germany sells Leopard tanks to the Netherlands. And I knew we had an airplane called the Eagle Fighter, and I thought, are you telling me, God, that Germany is the leopard? Well, then I began to investigate, because it says in the prophecy that dominion was given to the leopard. Well, I was trying to think in terms of present condition. I thought, well, the United States has been dominant. Russia's been pretty dominant. But who else could be said to have dominion? And then all of a sudden it dawned on me that there's one nation that started the last 3 major wars. The Franco-German War of 1870, World War I, and World War II were all plotted, planned, and started by one nation, the nation of Germany. Well, shortly thereafter, I was reading an article in the newspaper. Actually, it was in Newsweek magazine, April the 9th of 1984. And it was an article on Europe, and they had a section on Germany. This section was titled, The German Malady. Listen to what it says. Since the time of Charlemagne, the area that is now Germany has been the pivot of European history. In the past 120 years, the Germans have dominated Europe intellectually, industrially, and militarily. Now notice the word dominated. The prophecy says that dominion was given to the leopard. Germany has been the heart of Europe over the last 1,000 years or so. Consequently, when we think of the leopard tank and Germany having dominion, it helps us to identify who the leopard actually is. Now, there's one other thing we really need to look at here, Eddie. We need to pause a moment to realize how dominant Germany was during World War II. If it had not been for an act of God, Adolf Hitler would have conquered the world. It's an incredible story. What happened was the German armies were in a pincer movement against the English Channel, and they were grinding the Allied armies to mincemeat. According to the rise and fall of the Third Reich, the Allies would have had to sue for peace on Hitler's terms within 3 days. It's an amazing story. Winston Churchill actually called a day, a worldwide day of prayer and fasting, because the situation was so precarious. Well, the troops were moving forward. The famous Blitzkrieg attack of the German Nazi forces were moving forward, and they were unstoppable. All of a sudden, the mad corporal, Adolf Hitler, says, wait a minute, this is happening too easy. I must be falling into a trap. And he called all of his generals back to command headquarters for consultation. Well, while they're consulting back at headquarters, Great Britain mobilized every boat she had, and back and forth across the English Channel she went, day and night. In the meantime, fog hung over the English Channel so that German air reconnaissance was impossible. And the Allies pulled out 350,000 men, the heart of the Allied army. They were safely across the English Channel into Great Britain, and they lived to reinvade Germany a while later. Now, what's so interesting is how God can take the heart of a ruler and mold it at his own will. I can just imagine Hitler laying in his bunker about 4 o'clock in the morning, and he's dead asleep. And all of a sudden, an angel slips into the bunker and says, shakes his mattress and says, Adolf, you are falling into a trap. I can imagine him coming straight up out of bed, rubbing his little mustache, getting my generals, and Germany was defeated that easily. This just shows, sometimes we think that God's on his last plan or that he's biting his fingernails. Not true at all. I am telling you that in the midst of all the chaos our world is in right now, Almighty God is in absolute and perfect control, and we should never forget that.
Now, the leopard, one of the characteristics that was a little unique about it, as far as Daniel 7's beasts are concerned, is it had 4 heads. Why would the leopard have had 4 heads?
Well, it's interesting, especially since no other beast had more than 1 head. The lion 1 head, the bear 1 head, the 10-horned beast 1 head, but the leopard had 4 heads. Why? That's a big question. Well, we learn from our other studies in prophecy, and we won't take time to go there right now, but we learn that a beast in Bible prophecy always symbolizes a kingdom or a nation. Multiple heads on a beast symbolize the number of times that nation will rise and fall. There have been 3 rise and falls of Germany right now, and we're in the 4th one. There's the First Reich. The word Reich means kingdom. The Second Reich, Hitler's Third Reich, which is very famous. All of us are familiar with Hitler's Third Reich. And the Fourth Reich, which is right now rising. There's a book written, and I have the cover of it here for you to see. The cover of the book says The Fourth and Richest Reich, How the Germans Conquered the Post-War World. This was written by an American by the name of Edwin Hartrich, and he is contending that Germany has done economically what she could not do using military force.
There's one other beast. The last beast in this chapter is a beast like no other. Daniel did not liken it to a bear or some known beast. It was something he had never seen, and it had 10 horns. Now there's another symbol, 10 horns.
Yes, and all he could do was to describe the beast. He didn't say it's like a giraffe, it's like a hippopotamus. He just said it was a terrible, exceedingly strong beast that devoured everything in its path, but its dominant characteristic was that it had 10 horns. The question is, what do the horns symbolize? Daniel chapter number 7, verse number 24 tells us that, if you'll read that for us, please.
And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise.
Okay, now that's what we need to know. The beast symbolized kingdoms. Many horns on a beast symbolize kings that form a confederation to form a common kingdom.